You can't tell me that in this whole situation, an artist that have been in the trenches, some of them will say, "Oh, I have 500 songs, I have 1,000 songs," is a lie. So you come up, you give him a contract, and expect him to give you maybe 4 albums in 4 years with maybe minimum of 18 tracks, feature 4 top artists. Those are conditions that are not realistic. So record label bosses would need to set realistic demands and conditions.
So most times in Nigeria, you have the percentages floating between 70 to 80% that goes to the record label, 20 to
70
30.
to 80%.
Yeah,
If you're
70
lucky,
70
some are
to
even as
80.
much as 85.
Yeah, I bet most times 70,
70,
80.
Mhm.
I think the first thing artists should understand is that the record label's lawyer is never your lawyer. I think
True.
once you understand that fact that the record label's lawyer is not your lawyer, I think we would have the issues in a very to a long extent.
The events of recent times has echoed the need for artists to take a second and closer look at that contract before signing them and the implications of a breach. Sadly, many artists don't read the fine print. I mean, many of us don't even read the fine print. For decades in the entertainment industry, there have been disputes between artists and record labels or managers, from Van Morrison, who was notorious for recording 67 awful songs in a contractual obligation album. That is the name of the album. You can look it up. To Little Richard, Billy Joel, Juicy J, Wiz Khalifa, Megan Thee Stallion, TLC, and even down to Nigerian artists. The issue always boils down to contractual agreements, and that is why we're here to discuss what to look out for before signing that record contract. Here with me is an entertainment lawyer, Victor Ekpo, and a broadcast journalist, Opeyemi Akinyode. Hello.
Hi.
How are you doing?
Good day, everyone.
Good day. Thank you very much for joining us today. It's a very touchy subject and it's timely, so we have to discuss it. So I'm going to start with you, Opeyemi. Why do you think artists rush into signing deals that will come back to bite them?
It's actually kind of complicated if you want to look at it. You look around and then you see some boys that are looking for that one break. I mean, they've literally been in the trenches all their lives, so they're looking for that opportunity. Now, it's not everybody that will be as boxed up as Davido when he started his musical career. I mean, you all knew where he came in from, pumped in a lot of money when he started out. But there are a lot of boys that literally spend their whole life, working so hard, looking for that little break. So somebody comes to meet you, probably you went to perform at an event, and then somebody comes to me and say, "Oh, I like your job, I like what you do. Can you just come around?" And I have a record label. Sometimes it doesn't even start with the contract. They just say, now we day together. A year will roll by, 2 years. You just find out you're somewhere in between. So it's really difficult. And some of us, when we buy stuff, you just go through, you don't even read all of, just see, I agree. So you click.
Sure.
Because you look at those boys and they be like, when would this opportunity ever come again? And I mean, this is what they've literally prayed for, labored for, hoped for. So they just see the opportunity and they're actually on it because they tell you, we're going to move you out of where you are, take you to a more comfortable environment, maybe give you a car, give you some money to brush up yourself, set some influencers to push your content on social media. That's a dream. That's what they've always wanted. So they just see the opportunity and they just jump into it at the end of the day. And sometimes those contracts come with some really unrealistic demands. We all know that. But hey, I don't care. I've been working hard. I've been praying. And this opportunity is here. I'm going to take it.
So, Victor, I mentioned unfavorable deals when I started talking, right? I read about a deal that looks very unfavorable, although some people say it is not if you negotiate well. The 360 deal. What is that?
Interesting. So, just like the name 360, it means everything. And like when we had a little discussion this morning, I told you that, or you felt it was something that was happening pretty much outside, and I told you I think that's like the major type of contract Nigerian artists sign. Not until the last few years. I think if you check the artists who are coming out in the last few years, you are seeing more of independent artists signing distribution deals, because there is that red flag they are now starting to understand about 360. So for example, the likes of Buju, what's his name? Bad Boy Team. So they float their own, and then maybe do an distribution deal with someone like Empire or Orchard or 1RPM. I think Peruzzi is with 1RPM now. Lakon is with 1RPM. So you have that kind of structure floating now because of what 360 is. So let's come back to 360. Everything that you do as an artist, the label owns. In short, it even goes beyond music. For example, there's no music, but let's take it back to John Cena with WWE Raw. I've forgotten his name, the man in charge of Raw at that time, that was Triple H father-in-law or something like that. So I think John Cena was having an interview in such a way that even the movies John Cena acts, a percentage goes to WWE Raw. But John Cena was happy because he claimed without him, he wouldn't have a name. So there are situations where, well, you maybe
And maybe the money was not too ridiculous.
it could have been not, it could have been 30%, but the money that has been made might be so much that you don't even get to feel it, like so much. So, but again, let's imagine a situation whereby you are making just 10 million naira a year, and then the label is taking 70%. That's 7 million. And like you said, 3 million. If from there, your manager's percentage goes, you have guys, for artists that have 20 guys, they have guys everywhere, like you are spending, you are everything. So there's nothing really much. So it starts from the streaming money, publishing money, merchandise, tours, everything. There's something called ancillary services. That's where the movie, that's where something like the movie comes in. So for everything that you are an entertainer. So the concept is that without us, let's assume you start to make movies, you start to feature in movies. Without us giving you that brand name, those
Will not
would not have
recognize you.
recognized you. So we are taking a percentage out of that. So sometimes those percentages might not be as high as the other things in the music that's coming from strictly out of you being an artist. But again, it might be everything. So most times in Nigeria, you have the percentages floating between 70 to 80% that goes to the record label, 20 to
70
30.
to 80%.
Yeah,
If you're
70.
lucky,
70
some are
to
even as
80.
much as 85.
Yeah, I bet most times 70,
70,
80 is what goes to the label. So again, you have to look at it that this is a contract you have signed.
You signed it.
There is nothing on earth except the contract provides for a loophole that you could leave. But if the loopholes are tight, you have signed. In as much as the labels might be foxes, but you have signed. That's contract you have signed. When you go to court, oh, I didn't know. I didn't know. Sorry, you didn't know.
There's no
ignorance don't fly.
excuse. I'm sure you have seen the news over the years, and the news has been saturated with stories of war. I want to say war, I want to say rivalry, I want to say disagreement between record labels and their artists. Which one of those ones actually, piqued your interest the most?
Quite a lot. But I think when Wizkid had issues with EMA Records, we all knew it was going to be a big deal. When Wizkid started out, the old Alato boy, there was Kills, there was Shady, there was Wizkid, there was Banky W, there was Neola, all of them were all record label mates. But we all knew that the new ticket for EMA then was Wizkid. No disrespect to the other artists on the label, but Wizkid was like the big deal. So obviously kept bringing in the money. This same thing also played out with Wande Cole and Mohit, but I think Wizkid own was more pronounced. The issue came up, and then we later started finding out that the terms of the contract Wizkid signed with EMA was really ridiculous in terms of the sharing formulas when the monies for shows and stuff comes out. So you have a 40-40-20 sharing formula. 40 will go to the record label, 40 will go to the owner of the record label, then 20 will come to you as an artist. So who owns the record label? Who is the record label? So it's almost like the owner is collecting 80% of what you make. So in your own 20%, you have to fix a manager, upgrade your life. You've got people waiting for you. So I think the Wizkid and EME issue was the biggest. It's tough when you have a record label boss that is also an artist. It's not the best flex. So the record label boss is seeing his own artist getting deals of millions in performance, and him that is also an artist is not getting those stuff. So I think the Wizkid and EME's own really got very pronounced, and I'm really glad the way they sorted it out.
The golden question. What then is the red flag that when they talk about red flag in relationships? What is the red flag that artists should look out for in their contract before signing them, in your opinion?
It's difficult to look for red flags when you see something that look like an answered prayer in front of you.
True.
I mean, you've worked so hard for this, you've prayed, you've labored, you've hustled, and then a record label just put the contract on the table. See, those things that are supposed to be red flags, you don't even care the color of the flag. You just want to put pen to paper. You want to move out of where you are. You feel you've got so much talent in you, but the red flags would always be there. That's why I talked about unrealistic demands from some of these record label bosses. These artists, if they get big, some of them don't even spend a day or two in their apartment. They're on the road performing from state to state and all of that. That's why artists will come and tell you that, oh, this song is actually not mine. I bought this song. Oh, somebody will come and drag one artist. This is my song. I went for a reality show. I performed the song. I dropped it for audition. They didn't pick me. Then you later found out that song was maybe given to an artist. So all these things are happening. But in terms of red flags, for someone that had not been in that space before, you don't even know what is red flag or what is not red flag. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? For instance, a record label tells you that, oh, if you get a job of 1M, for instance, we're going to give you just 300,000. That's 30% of the money. The 70% goes to your management. They won't break it down. But at that point, you just want to sign this deal, you just want that money start falling in. So you don't even care. I've seen a lot of people slide into artists' DM and they're ready to do anything. They don't care. A lot of these artists also don't have defined agreements. What happened between Mehdi and P Square till today will still be a very funny mystery. P Square said they didn't sign Mehdi officially. Mehdi said P Square making money off his content, off his music, and he's not getting ideal royalty. The question is this: was he signed? Does he have a contract? Was anything put on the table?
And they were seeing how it goes.
And then that's exactly what it works. So it's difficult for you to say red flag. I'm hungry. And then you put food on the table. I won't even care whether there's enough salt or there's enough spice or anything. I just want to put food in my mouth. I just want something in my system. So you bring that contract, see those red flags. We'll walk around it. You just want to get into that space. Then when you get into that space, you find out that these red flags you ignored at the start are going to come back and haunt you, because agreement is agreement. Yendaba. You signed. You signed. So you put the whole advantage on the part of the record label boss, and they can do whatever they want to do. That's why they tell you that G Worldwide took his Daniel to court. Boy was in between using Vado or Boy Kiss. The whole thing just scattered his whole plan. Yeah. I read somewhere recently that he said at some point he was thinking of just walking away from music, because the record label is way on the line. You remember what happened to Victor also? So I think these red flags are really difficult for an artist that is coming from the trenches and I need money, I want to blow, I need platform, I need stardom. Red flag, we change the color, Jerry.
I mentioned Van Morrison in the beginning. He had a contract. He has to give 67 songs in a year. And then the man in charge died. His wife, he said, you cannot do anything if you don't give me your 67 songs. Do you know what he did?
Kept recording wax songs.
He recorded what he said. Listened to one. He talked about ringworms. He was on stage thinking about ringworms. He recorded 67 crappy songs just because. So,
let me quickly add up to what he said. You see, some of these artists don't even know what is coming. It's a risk from both ends. You can sign an artist that's got huge potentials and it could be a one hit wonder.
True.
Is your loss as a record label. You could also sign an artist that you think, oh, let's see how we can brush him up. You just find out that all he needs is just the right things. He's got so much talent in him. And that's why you need to give a lot of credit to Don Jazz. I'm bringing it back again. I think spotting this talent is a unique thing for Don Jazz. And then he keeps them in the academy, brushes them off. So sometimes you think, oh, Don Jazz don't go sign Botsy Boy. No, when I saw Boy Spice, and I'm like, I know Boy Spice. And then by the time he came up from Maven, he was looking all polished, all fresh, you know. So his work. So an artist is going and say, I don't even know if I'll blow. Then record label is also like, what if you sign this guy and he does not blow? We've seen a lot of one hit wonders in this country, that they just come with that huge energy and then they cannot replicate that success they've had. So it's a loss for. So everybody just has to find that point where I put in money on you, I'm getting money back.
Still on this 360 deal, you've said it depends on the terms of the contract, right? So how can an artist, should an artist do to protect themselves when signing this type of deal?
So, I think the first thing artists should understand is that the record label's lawyer is never your lawyer. I think
True.
once you understand that fact that the record label's lawyer is not your lawyer, I think we would have the issues in a very to a long extent, because you come and you see, oh, the label's lawyer is reaching out to you, oh, this is being nice. The fact is, the label is paying the lawyer. So when something comes, when there's an issue on ground, you don't expect the lawyer to come into your favor or say, oh, help you and all of that. So you need to understand, first of all, that you need to get a lawyer. But most times, like our guest that mentioned, most times these artists are desperate. They just want to get something. They just want to move in, and then they don't even look for a lawyer. Now, that's one point. Second is, they find a lawyer, or maybe someone on their team forces them to. Most of the time, that's what happens. Their manager insists, oh, you need a lawyer, and then they find a lawyer. But just to fulfill all righteousness, they have the lawyer. But most of the time, they don't even get to heed to the advice the lawyer has given them. I have seen it so many times, even to a popular record label that put out an artist sometime earlier on this year. I'd advised that, no, I don't think this is favorable, or even if you want to sign, let's try to negotiate most of these terms and all. But he ended up signing. For an instance, I was an artist for like 9 years before moving into the legal side of the industry, and I understand both sides. So I've seen a situation where someone saved me from signing a very shitty contract. We are not playing the short game. So, but they don't get to recognize that fact. Then, even when you now have a lawyer, the key things that most likely a good lawyer would look out for is, first of all, the duration, the term of the contract. You can see some labels sign artists for 7 years. Most times 2 years and fights start happening. But 5 years is way too much. So you look at the duration. Then you look at the obligations. He mentioned sometimes the commitments being asked from the artist are almost impossible. Why would you put out 5 albums to 3 EPs in 4 years? That's unimaginable. So you have that such commitment. You have to look at, oh, what am I delivering within that period? Then obviously the copyright ownership. You should, well, this can be what they call it, flexible, because knowing that the label provides the finances, so like the copyright provides, whoever is finances a sound recording is the owner of that, so definitely the label owns. But what you could fight for is provision for either a reversion clause. Reversion is that after some years the ownership comes back to you, or a buyback clause that you could be able to buy back your masters. This, if you don't get any of this, is not so out of it because the label owns it, but this is just something you could try to negotiate. Then another issue is that might look very little, but it's very most times this always becomes an issue, is an auditing clause. So what's an auditing clause? It's where the label is to provide you a statement of account. So maybe every month or on a quarterly basis or twice a year, depending on how the contract. And then most times there is no provision for auditing. So what's the issue? So, you feel, the label is not giving you your exact money or this, but you now need an auditing clause that says, okay, you can audit this statement within once a year or twice a year. And so there's like a whole legal structure behind it. So most times you don't have that structure. So now the artist is saying, I want to see the books, but there is no provision for that in the contract, and you're having issues. I feel you're cheating me, this and that. And then it might look small, auditing, but I have seen that auditing clause is always, and not always, but it's one of the major issues that labels get to have. Then also, with 360, when they start to earn, and then they get to see that, why is the label taking from everything that I am earning from? But that is the concept of 360. So what you could do is to try to beat down the number of things that the label takes from, or on certain things reduce the percentages that the label takes from, so that you don't get to. But to be honest, it's a 360. So in as much as we can say, the label is taking from everything, this is not illegal. That is what it is. So it's you, it's for you and your team and your lawyer to try to negotiate. And when at any point you feel, or the lawyer has given you a good advice, it might seem, I'm hungry, I can't walk away. But most of the time, the lawyer is always going to be right, because there's going to be an issue. You are a human being. You are earning so much. You are seeing what you are earning, but you cannot eat what you're earning. So it's like you wake up. It's just like you wake up in the morning, you go to the farm, you bring out so much food, then it's time to sell, but you're not earning what you maybe 80% goes to, let's say, tax. The government takes tax and all, but you are the one who goes to that farm and
you do harvest and leave it at the farm and go back home. That is what it looks like.
So the label is not wrong for investing and wanting to get back, but on your own part as the artist, you have to now know, okay, how can I make this a little bit beneficial to me? And then when the label is not budging, you have to be able to make that decision of walking away.
How then? Because we know that we have some bad eggs in the music industry in terms of the artists.
Bad eggs everywhere.
I'm saying, because we're talking about the music industry, right?
Okay.
Some of these artists we just wake up one morning and say they're not recording songs again, or after eating everything that I provided for you, winning the bands and lived in the duplexes. So how can these record labels then be protected?
There are only few record labels in Nigeria that does a record label the way a record label should be done.
Which one?
You look at the structure at Maven Records, for instance. You know how long it takes Don Jazzy to push an artist out. Don Jazzy does not push an artist out that had probably just signed. We'll be in the Maven Academy, they'll brush you up, touch you up, give you a strong media team. Every single department in Maven has a lawyer. So there's a contract signed for sharing formula, for shows, for number of singles, number of collaborations. If you're dropping an EP, if you're dropping a full album, all of this is always very spelled out. Unfortunately, we have some record label bosses that should still be under record label boss. Someone that is a manager that obviously needs a manager. So that's exactly where the problem is. The artist wants that platform.
Yeah.
So the record label boss jumps. So remember the issue with G Worldwide and Kiss Daniel, to the point that it was told in court not to use the name Kiss Daniel.
Like Prince.
It comes in that way. So most times you see these artists, they just don't care. They just want to get that platform. And the record label bosses also are just foxes somewhere looking for who to perch on. You've seen the talent, you've seen the opportunity this guy can bring you. And then so I think there has to be a meeting point where the artist knows that with or without the record label, you may or you may not blow.
True.
I've seen a lot of artists that have been independent almost all their career and they've gone big. I've seen a lot of artists that have also been on the platform of record labels, but they still didn't blow. Don't let us call names before we run into trouble. But I think what I'm just saying is that the record label need to know that your artist is not a cash cow. You can't tell me that in this whole situation, an artist that have been in the trenches, some of them will say, "Oh, I have 500 songs, I have 1,000 songs," is a lie. So you come up, you give him a contract, I expect him to give you maybe 4 albums in 4 years with maybe minimum of 18 tracks, feature 4 top artists. Those are conditions that are not realistic. So record label bosses would need to set realistic demands and conditions. And the artists on their part also need to work really hard. I've been close to quite a few of these artists. I know of an artist saying some days ago, I said, this artist, the rapper, very popular guy, but he's one of the laziest artists I've been to when it comes to pushing his content because he has a social media base that he accepts or he thinks is quite popular for him. So the record label, the artists get big, the shows are coming in, and then the wings will come up. I can't do this anymore. I can't record anymore. But 2 years ago, when I picked you up from Ikorodu, you thought you were going to give me a 18-track album. 2. Now you did 4 singles. I made sure you featured a big artist. The song went viral. But you don't want to work again. I've seen some really messy situations. We've read a few of them everywhere where artists will just walk out of a record label deal. It's a big mess. So both of them need to find a meeting point. I'm giving you money as an artist. I'm performing. You're collecting your percentage. As a record label, I'm also giving you that platform. I'm protecting you. I have a legal team that backs everything you do. Your endorsement, your contract, your image rights, everything is on you. So I think both of them had to just look for a meeting point.
There's a thing that Taylor Swift did when she realized that her masters.
Remixed her
So when
masters.
her masters were held hostage, because of course she signed the contract and she re-recorded those masters, and now any royalty from those songs will go to her.
The Universal made a mistake, and which they
So
they
how did that happen? How did they have
I, to be honest, I don't know how Universal made that mistake because immediately after that, they made their contracts tighter. So what happened was there is a clause that allows you for, I don't think it really happens in Nigerian contracts because there's a clause that allows you for, to able to remix or refix the master recording after some years. So where that happens in the most Nigerian contracts I've seen are with producers and artists. So you can probably after some years refix the instrumental you made and it doesn't affect as far as the sound, as far as the performance of the artist is not on it. It's just the instrumental and all of that. But with Taylor Swift, most likely had the contract saying the recordings that are happening in that have come out from this contract, you can remix or you can remix the so what would have happened is the performance on those previous songs, like Taylor Swift takes the instrumental and then goes and then do a new stuff on it. And but with Nigerian contract, I'm yet to see where there is that provision. So I'm not sure there's been much of an issue as regards to that particular issue with Taylor Swift.
So for legal protection now, right? I have signed a contract. I don't think it's favorable to me. I want to get out of it. And you said it's like contract agreement. Opeyemi said, "Yedeba." Your agreement is agreement, right? How is there any provision in the law that can enable me leave such contract?
So I think in UK, you have some provisions. I'm not sure if it's their copyright law or just some other statutes that kind of guides record labels and artists as to an extent in which you can go far. Maybe the number of years and obligations, something like that. Yeah. So in Nigeria, you don't have those particular statutes or provisions that kind of protect. So it's just straightforward. The only thing really guiding the industry in Nigeria is probably the Copyright Act, which is not even so extensive. So when you are looking for a way to leave, most times it's only if there is a loophole provided in the contract. So for example, let's go to the termination clause. So the termination clause provides that maybe within that if there's a breach of any of these agreements, you can terminate the contract upon a 30 days notice has been sent, and then the person who committed the breach has not remedied the breach, that has not fixed that breach within the 30 days notice that you sent, then you can terminate. So let's take a breach, for example. You are supposed to release an album maybe within 1 year of signing the contract. So, and the label has been unable to do that. And then you now send a breach, you now send a notice, and then within that period, the label still does not release the album again, then you can terminate. But this is very easy to say. Most of the contract don't have that. So it just says you are supposed to put out 4 albums within this duration. So it didn't state you
That
can
I
put out
must.
1 album within 1 year. So if until the 4 years has expired, you can't hold the label to the neck that they haven't performed their obligation. So morally is wrong. But this is not a moral contract. This is legal. So morally, yes, you could say, oh, what this person did is not nice. True, makes sense. But it's not. You can't go to the court and say, oh, this thing it did not make sense. Except where there's a provision, maybe there's been a breach of financial impropriety, like the money you are stealing from the artist. But where you don't have such major issue to hammer on, maybe you just feel, oh, the label is not doing fine and you just want to leave, except it says that you can terminate this contract within 30 days, sending a notice, which it is almost impossible for. That's just like saying you can walk out at any time you want. So
you hardly see that there, and you can't prove.
No, you shouldn't. If I was the label, I wouldn't even put that, because I'm investing money. Is for you to say you can leave at any time you want after I've put in so much money. So you can't blame the label for not having
financial impropriety.
Yeah.
That's it, right?
Yeah.
It cannot be proven if you don't have the auditing clause, right?
Exactly. So if you cannot show the books that this I made 50 million and maybe my cut was 20 million and you are giving me 5 million. So if I can't audit, now you see why auditing is important. Because if you actually, let's even imagine that there is actually financial but you cannot prove it because you haven't been able to see the books. Except maybe you have receipt of, most times receipt of payment do not come to you, it goes to the label for transactions. So you can't still prove it. Yeah.
When we're done with all this justice for Mohbad, the whole movement, some people need to sit down. There are a lot of young artists that have really slave look-alike contracts, but they can't speak out because they feel like they could be victimized. They could terminate their contract. They will not want to sign them.
Blacklisted.
I think that's where this issue needs to come in from. These people doing the justice for Mohbad thing should probably look for well-meaning Nigerians, set up a little committee, and try to appeal to those young artists to come forward. Come and tell us the terms of your contract. You can mediate between them and the record label bosses. Some of these people say Mohbad everywhere, that are record label bosses. They are putting their artists under worse conditions. But this is the one we've seen.
Even out of the music industry.
Exactly. It's a general thing. Everybody's just somewhere to milk and move on.
Desperation should not be the reason you are signing a contract that's going to come back to haunt you, because the thrill of the moment, that moment will pass. At the end of the day, what will be left is, somebody said that there are lots of Nigerian artists who are broke. You'll be wondering why this person making millions. He's not asking money for kidney transplant, and you're wondering, don't you have a lot of money? But they don't have a lot of money because they have signed away literally their lives. So thank you very much, Victor, for joining us today. Thank you very much, Opeyemi.
You're welcome.
This is Africa Tech Radio, and I've been listening to Madhouse.